Welcome to Website and TV. I'm Gemma Houghton. Today I'm joined by Macarena Estévez, who's the founder of Conento, a company using mathematics to help businesses understand their customers and improve their performance. Hi Macarena.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about big data, and the first question I wanted to ask you is, it's been quite a hot topic for a few years now, the idea of big data, but are most companies using the data that they've got effectively?
Well, at least they are trying to. I think they still have to work on it, but it is something that is not really very easy. Companies, they have lots of different sources, and the important thing is to get knowledge from these sources, and this is not easy to do. I think the best way to do it is they have to start with just one source, and then keep adding the rest of sources in an intelligent way. Yeah. The problem also is that these sources are alive, and you have to get the knowledge in real time, and this is something that is not easy. You need the right technology and the right people to do it in the right way.
Yeah, so it needs a careful plan, and
yes, absolutely, a careful plan, and to do lots of things with big data before using the big data.
So sometimes having too much data can be as bad as having not enough data. So what advice could you give to businesses to be able to, utilize the data in an effective way and get the right information?
Well, I don't really agree that to have big data is the same as to have little data. The key point here is that you need to clean big data. Once you clean big data, then to have big clean data is something that is really better than little data. About the software, I think the important thing here is to have data scientists in your team. If you have good data scientists and you trust these people, then they are going to use the software in each occasion that they need to use. So if you have the right people, then forget about thinking about what is the best software, because these people are going to be in charge of getting the software that they need for each situation.
So what is the difference between analytics and metrics, and how can businesses determine what are the right metrics to be focusing on for them?
Well, a metric is something that is already defined. Is a standard definition of something. For example, ROI is a metric, and the definition of ROI is, for example, talking about TV, ROI is equal to TV contribution to sales divided by TV investment. And because you have this equal here, this is a right definition and you can't change it. Then you have to estimate this metric. You need to calculate the contribution of TV to sales. And to do this, you need data analytics, and you need to do the analysis. This is the difference between the metric, standard definition, and the analysis is what you have to do, what methodology do you have to use to get this metric. And clients, how clients can detect or define the right metrics, they have to look for the metrics that correlates with business. So for example, ROI correlates positively to business, and if you increase ROI, then your business is going to increase. You can also have some metrics that correlates negatively with business. For example, employee churn or client churn. And but both metrics, the ones that correlates positively and the ones that correlates negatively, are important metrics, and clients have to follow these metrics, if possible, in real time.
And what do you think are some of the biggest opportunities surrounding big data, and how can businesses use that to exploit, global opportunities?
Well, I think one of the biggest opportunities is to use big data to bring decisions into real time. And I don't mean decision as if you are entering a website what is the product that I want to offer to you. But for example, decisions as what is going to affect the brand or brand risk, if we can measure brand risk in real time, I think this is something very interesting. And the difficult point here is not just that you have to clean big data and to get what you know from the brand, about the brand from this big data. The difficult thing here is that something like a brand is an intangible asset. Mm-hmm. And to measure intangible asset is something that is difficult, not just with big data, but in general mm-hmm. is something difficult. And when you also want to measure a brand metric in real time with big data, this is much more difficult. But I think real time is the great opportunity for companies when they are using big data to have things like very, very quickly.
So big data is really useful in helping businesses understand their customers and how they behave and interact. And how can brands, or how should brands be using it to kind of break into new markets and identify new opportunities?
Well, I think in general brands look inside themselves very well. Mm-hmm. They know everything about their clients, but they have to look outside more. And looking outside, they are going to learn lots of things. For example, talking about Facebook, mm-hmm. brands know everything about all the customers that go to Facebook and they interact with the brand. But they never, or in general, they don't look outside their webpage or mm-hmm. Facebook site. And I think that when you, for example, look to the competition webpage or the competition site mm-hmm. in Facebook, you are going to learn a lot indirectly about their clients, because you can't look who are their clients, but you can indirectly think if my competition is doing something different, something new, probably it's because their clients like that. Yeah. So I am going to know a lot about the other clients, mm-hmm. clients that are outside, if I look what my competition is doing.
Yeah, so it's definitely always a challenge for brands, is about looking outside of themselves and not just focusing on what they're doing, but looking at the bigger world.
Absolutely.
So at the moment, there's a lot of discussion around GDPR and how businesses are now going to be able to collect and use data. What impact do you think that will have, and how will that affect the use of data in businesses? Well,
let me tell you that I love the new law.
Okay, that's not a common
I think it is interesting. I think it's going to be good for us, for mm-hmm. all the European citizens and residents. I think this is an important step. But we also need to be conscious, and we need to read carefully when we click OK, when we are entering into a web page. Mm-hmm. We really need to read what this web page is offering us. No? So I think that the law is going to be OK, but we also need to be conscious that what we are doing and what we need to do and what some companies are going to do with our data. I think that from a methodological point of view, companies are going to change some things, but not really a lot. I think that what the GDPR law is trying to do is, well, you can't get information from just one individual. But we are going to get information for a group of individuals. Mm. So we are still going to get information, and we are going to do an analysis. If, for example, if we are estimating the probability of someone buying my product before the law, mm-hmm. probably this probability was very accurate because it came just from one individual. Mm-hmm. Now this probability is going to come from a group of individuals similar to each individual. Mm-hmm. So probably the probability is not going to be as accurate as it was before, but it is going still to be better to have this analysis and this metric that not to having. Yeah. So I think it is going to be okay. Then some companies that really depend on these individual metrics, well, probably they are going to suffer a little, but not a lot. I think it is going to be a setback, but not a bankruptcy.
Another really good benefit of big data is it helps innovation, it helps understand more and come up with new ideas. What do you think are the ways in which businesses can do that better?
I think companies are already working on it. I have an example on my mind. For example, a client of handbags, and they always they like to look what they are and other companies are doing in the United States, for example, and then they look at the social networks and they can get some inspiration for innovation, and they do this very often and carefully. But I think that to look outside and to see what other countries are doing is good for inspiration, but you always have to check this also in your local situation with research, both quantitative and qualitative research. So for example, if you get a trend and you think that a trend is coming to Spain because this trend now is very famous in the United States, for example, so you think that in 3 months in Spain this trend is going to arrive here. Okay, that's good, you have the idea, but you need to check this idea locally because you never know. So I think it's a mix of using big data and social networks to get inspiration and to see what can be next, but also always to check this with local research, questions to your clients, because your clients are always going to tell you very, very interesting things. And it's a mix of both things.
And then how can businesses take that, those ideas and that inspiration and actually turn that into new experiences for their customers and improve the way that the offering that they give?
I think it is like a cycle because, well, first you have to listen always. I always tell my people that work in Conento, I always tell them, first you always have to listen. It is the same with your clients, with your customers. You always have to listen, and then you can use the social networks to listen like very, very quickly. But then you are going to innovate. Once you innovate, this innovation is going to your clients, and then you have to keep listening. So it's always the same. It's like you have to improve and improve and improve. And this is exactly where big data is helping companies. Because before, we always wish to have done this, but we couldn't. But now with big data, with technologies, with analysis, with all this, we can really have this cycle alive and measure everything new and see how things work very, very quickly.
So finally, what would be your top tips that you would share for businesses to maximise their use of data and make it add value to their company?
Well, I think I have one main top tip. In Conento we have something we call the art of war. And what we say with this is that companies, they have a daily battle. And the way you win a battle is not just with tactics. A battle, you need tactics, of course, but you also need a strategic point of view. So the tip is, well, let's win the battle with both approaches. You need the strategic point of view, and then you need to deploy this strategic point of view into different tactics. To do the tactics, you are going to use the big data, but not to do the strategic point of view. To do the strategic point of view, you need to think, and to think, you need humans. So it is always going to be better to have machines plus humans than just to have machines.
That's a good point to end on. Thank you very much for sharing your insights today.
Welcome, thank you.
It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you. Bye.